There's a power in solitude that most people never understand because they confuse being alone with being lonely. Listen closely. Being alone is not a curse. It's a gift, a battlefield where your true strength is forged. When you learn to stand alone without the chains of loneliness dragging you down, you tap into a force so fierce that nothing in this world can break you. The noise, the distractions, the endless need for validation, they all disappear when you master the art of being alone. You become untouchable because your worth no longer depends on others, but on yourself. This is where real growth happens. This is where the weak are separated from the unstoppable. You don't need someone to complete you. You need to complete yourself first. Embrace the silence, look inward, and realize that your own company is the most loyal you will ever have. The moment you stop fearing loneliness is the moment you start living a life so powerful that even the toughest storms bow to your presence. You are your own kingdom, your own king. Stand tall, be proud, and conquer the solitude because it's not about being alone. It's about being unbreakable. Solitude is strength, not weakness. That simple truth is something so many people fail to grasp because society has conditioned us to fear being alone, to believe that we must always be surrounded by others to feel complete or validated. But that's a lie. Real strength is born in the moments you spend by yourself, away from the noise and distractions, where you face your own thoughts and confront the raw, unfiltered version of who you truly are. It's in solitude that you discover your power, because when no one else is around to lift you up, you have no choice but to lift yourself. And that is where genuine strength is forged. Think about it. When you're surrounded by people, it's easy to wear masks, to hide your fears and insecurities behind smiles and jokes. But when you're alone, there's no one to impress, no one to please, and no one to hide from. You come face to face with yourself, your vulnerabilities, and your potential. That is not a place of weakness. It's the place where the foundation of your character is laid. It's the place where you learn to rely on yourself, to trust yourself, and to become your own source of motivation and courage. Most people run from solitude because they equate it with loneliness. They see being alone as a punishment or a sign of failure, as if needing others around to validate their existence is the only way to feel worthy. But that's a dangerous trap. When you lean on others for your sense of worth, you hand over your power. You give away control over your happiness and confidence. And the moment those people leave or disappoint you or fail to meet your expectations, you crumble because your foundation was never truly yours. Solitude teaches you how to stand without crutches. It teaches you that you don't need anyone else's approval to feel whole. You learn to be your own best friend, your own toughest critic, and your own biggest fan all at once. You learn to find peace in silence, to fill your mind with thoughts that inspire and challenge you instead of doubts that weaken you. You develop an inner resilience that no external circumstance can shake. There's also a clarity that comes with solitude, something impossible to achieve in the chaos of constant social noise. When you're alone, you can think deeply without distraction. You can analyze your goals, your values, and your dreams. You can strategize your next move in life with precision and calm. That kind of clarity is power. It gives you the ability to make decisions that are truly aligned with who you are and what you want, instead of being swayed by popular opinion or peer pressure. Another layer of strength in solitude is emotional independence. When you stop depending on others for emotional support, you build a shield around your heart that protects you from the pain of disappointment and rejection. This doesn't mean shutting off your feelings or becoming cold. It means developing emotional self-sufficiency so that you can handle whatever life throws at you with grace and confidence. You become a rock in the storm, unmoved by external chaos because your center is unshakable. Solitude also forces you to confront your fears head on. Fear thrives on distraction and avoidance. When you're alone, there's no escaping the doubts and anxieties that plague your mind, but instead of running from them, you have to face them. And with every confrontation, those fears lose their power. You learn that fear is just a story you tell yourself, and stories can be rewritten. This process of facing fear in solitude strengthens your mental toughness and builds a mindset that refuses to quit. The world often praises extroverts, those who thrive in social settings, who command attention and move effortlessly among crowds. But there's a quiet power in those who are comfortable alone, who don't need constant stimulation to feel alive. These people are dangerous, not in a negative sense, but in the way that their independence and self-possession make them unstoppable. They are the ones who can walk into any situation with calm confidence because they've already mastered the most important relationship of all, the one with themselves. Furthermore, solitude is essential for creativity and self-discovery. Many great artists, thinkers, and leaders credit their moments of solitude for their breakthroughs. When you give yourself space away from the opinions and expectations of others, you unlock the freedom to explore new ideas, to experiment, and to innovate. In solitude, your mind is free to wander and connect the dots in ways it never could in a crowded room. You learn more about who you are, what you want, and what you're capable of. This self-awareness is a cornerstone of true strength because it gives you direction and purpose. Some people fear solitude because they associate it with loneliness, and loneliness can be painful. But loneliness is not the same as being alone. Loneliness is a feeling of emptiness, a sense of disconnection that comes from feeling misunderstood or isolated even when surrounded by people. Being alone, on the other hand, is a state of physical solitude that, when embraced, can be deeply fulfilling. The difference lies in mindset. When you learn to be comfortable with yourself, to enjoy your own company, loneliness loses its grip. You create a relationship with yourself that is so rich and satisfying that you no longer need external validation to feel complete. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires courage and practice. It means choosing to spend time alone, even when it's uncomfortable at first. It means turning off the distractions and facing the silence. It means accepting yourself fully with all your flaws and imperfections. But the rewards are immense. When you emerge from that process, you are stronger, wiser, and more grounded than ever before. In fact, solitude is the ultimate test of character. It separates those who are truly self-reliant from those who are dependent on others for their identity. It reveals who you are beneath the surface, stripped of pretense and social masks. It teaches you to be your own anchor in the storm and your own light in the darkness. And once you've mastered this, nothing in the outside world can break you. So don't fear being alone. Don't run from it or try to fill the silence with empty distractions. Instead, embrace solitude as a source of strength. Use it to build your mental toughness, your emotional independence, and your self-awareness. Learn to love your own company and find peace in your own presence. Because when you do, you become a force of nature, unshakable, unbreakable, and unstoppable. Solitude is not weakness. It is the secret weapon of those who refuse to settle for anything less than greatness. Self-worth comes from within, not others. This is one of the most powerful truths you can ever accept, yet it's one of the hardest for people to truly internalize. The world constantly bombards us with messages that we need others' approval, praise, and validation to feel valuable or worthy. Social media likes, compliments, career titles, relationships, all seem to shape how we perceive ourselves. But relying on others to define your worth is a dangerous and fragile foundation. It's like building your house on sand. At any moment, the tides of opinion and circumstance can wash it all away, leaving you exposed and vulnerable. True self-worth, the kind that empowers you to stand tall no matter what, must come from deep within. It's a fire you ignite inside yourself, a conviction that no external factor can diminish or extinguish. When you realize that your value is not dependent on other people's recognition, you reclaim your power. You stop being a puppet to their judgments, their expectations, or their fleeting opinions. Instead, you become the master of your own identity. This shift is transformative. It means that praise no longer inflates you artificially, and criticism no longer deflates you to the core. Your confidence stops being a roller coaster controlled by the highs and lows of external feedback. Instead, it becomes steady, unwavering, and self-sustained. You learn to love yourself in a way that doesn't require anyone else's permission. The journey to internal self-worth begins with self-awareness, really knowing who you are beyond your achievements, your possessions, or the roles you play in other people's lives. It's about looking inward with honesty and compassion, recognizing your strengths and weaknesses without judgment. This is not arrogance or self-delusion. It's a clear-eyed acceptance of your humanity. When you build this kind of relationship with yourself, you start to understand that your value is intrinsic. It exists simply because you exist. You are worthy of respect, love, and happiness just by being you, not because of what you do or what others think about you. This internal sense of worth is a shield against the inevitable challenges life throws at you. When you know your value doesn't come from external validation, you become resilient to failure, rejection, and setbacks. You can face criticism without letting it define you because you've already established your worth independently. You become fearless in pursuing your goals because the approval of others is no longer a prerequisite for your confidence. This freedom unleashes your true potential. Instead of shrinking to fit others' expectations, you grow according to your own vision and standards. Another crucial aspect of self-worth is learning to set boundaries. When you understand your value from within, You refuse to tolerate disrespect or manipulation. You recognize that your time, energy, and emotions are precious and not something to be squandered on people or situations that don't honor your worth. Setting boundaries becomes a natural extension of self-respect. You no longer seek validation by bending over backward to please everyone. Instead, you surround yourself with relationships that uplift and inspire you. This selectivity strengthens your self-esteem even more because it reinforces the message that you are worthy of healthy, positive connections. It's important to realize that self-worth is not static. It requires constant nurturing and attention, just like a muscle that grows stronger the more you work it. Every day presents opportunities to affirm your value internally, whether through positive self-talk, self-care, or pursuing things that align with your true self. Conversely, it also means confronting and dismantling negative beliefs or patterns that chip away at your confidence. This might involve unlearning harmful conditioning from childhood, rejecting toxic relationships, or overcoming the fear of judgment. It's a lifelong process of reclaiming your power and reinforcing the truth that you are enough exactly as you are. Many people confuse self-worth with arrogance or narcissism, but they are fundamentally different. Arrogance tries to inflate the ego by putting others down or exaggerating one's abilities. Self-worth, on the other hand, is humble and grounded. It acknowledges imperfections without shame and doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. When your worth is internal, you become more empathetic and compassionate toward others because you're not competing for validation. You already have it from within. This creates a deep sense of peace and confidence that radiates naturally. The societal pressure to seek validation from others is deeply embedded in culture and media. We are constantly fed images and stories that equate success and happiness with external approval. But the reality is that this is a superficial and unstable form of self-esteem. Social media followers, for example, can disappear overnight. Compliments can be insincere or temporary. When your sense of worth is tied to these fluctuating external factors, you're building your identity on a shaky foundation. In contrast, when you root your self-worth internally, you create a steady base that no external event can shake. This internal foundation is what sustains you through tough times and empowers you to thrive. To cultivate this internal self-worth, you must practice self-validation. This means learning to recognize and celebrate your achievements and qualities without waiting for others to do so. It means telling yourself the truth about your efforts, your progress, and your unique value. It involves consciously shifting your mindset from, do I deserve this, or am I good enough, to I am worthy because I exist, and my efforts matter. This mental shift is subtle but profound, changing how you relate to yourself in the world. Self-worth also thrives on authenticity. When you stop trying to be someone you're not just to fit in or gain approval, you honor your true self. Authenticity is magnetic because it signals confidence and self-respect. People are naturally drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't apologize for who they are. By embracing your quirks, passions, and values, you strengthen your internal sense of worth. You don't need to conform to someone else's standards because you're already enough. It's also essential to remember that self-worth is separate from your actions or results. You may fail, make mistakes, or fall short of your goals, but none of that diminishes your inherent value. Your worth is not conditional on success or perfection. This mindset frees you from the paralyzing fear of failure that holds so many back. When you know your value is constant and unconditional, you can take risks, learn from setbacks, and keep moving forward with confidence. Moreover, self-worth is the foundation of genuine happiness and fulfillment. When you seek validation from others, you're chasing an endless, exhausting cycle. No matter how much approval you get, it never feels quite enough because it's always external and dependent on changing circumstances. But when your worth comes from within, happiness becomes a choice and a state of being rather than a fleeting reward. You find joy in your own progress, in living according to your values, and in knowing that you are enough. This kind of fulfillment is deep, lasting, and unshakable. Ultimately, the truth is simple, but profound. No one can make you feel worthy unless you already believe it inside yourself. Others' opinions, while sometimes helpful or encouraging, are not the foundation of your identity. The power to determine your value lies entirely within you. When you own this truth, you become unstoppable. You walk through life with a quiet confidence that can't be shaken by criticism or rejection. You attract respect and opportunities because you respect yourself first. and you inspire others to find their own worth from within. So stop looking outside for the validation you deserve. Stop measuring yourself by other standards or waiting for their approval. Start cultivating your inner sense of worth today. Look in the mirror and affirm that you are enough just as you are. Celebrate your strengths and accept your flaws. Take ownership of your identity and refuse to let anyone else define it. When you do this, you unleash a power inside that no one can take away. A power that will carry you through every challenge and elevate you to heights you never imagined possible. Self-worth is not given. It is claimed. Claim it fiercely and live your life like the champion you are. Loneliness is a mindset. Being alone is a choice. This distinction is crucial, yet many people confuse the two, letting fear and misunderstanding cloud their ability to embrace solitude and freedom. Society often paints loneliness as a painful, unavoidable condition, a dark, empty space that swallows you whole when you find yourself alone. But the truth is far more empowering. Loneliness is not an external circumstance, but an internal state of mind. It is how you interpret and respond to being alone. Meanwhile, being alone is simply a physical reality, a state of solitude that anyone can experience. The key difference is that loneliness comes from within, shaped by your thoughts and feelings, while being alone is neutral, a blank canvas you can choose to fill with meaning, growth, and strength. When you understand that loneliness is a mindset, you realize it is within your power to change it. No one can force you to feel lonely. It's your reaction, your interpretation that creates loneliness or dissolves it. You can be alone in a room full of people and feel utterly lonely, or you can be completely by yourself and feel whole, content, and alive. This means the state of loneliness is not about your environment or your social situation. It's about your relationship with yourself. It's about how you perceive your own company. When you learn to love, respect, and appreciate yourself, loneliness loses its grip because you are no longer seeking external approval or connection to validate your existence. Being alone is a choice, a powerful one that many people shy away from because it requires courage and self-trust. Choosing to be alone means you're willing to face yourself without distraction or escape. You're saying, I am enough. I don't need constant noise or the presence of others to feel complete. This choice is not about isolation or withdrawal from the world, but about claiming your independence and freedom. It is a deliberate decision to spend time with yourself, to cultivate your own thoughts, passions, and dreams. When you make this choice, you tap into a wellspring of strength and clarity that can't be found in constant social interaction. Loneliness, on the other hand, stems from a fear of being alone with your thoughts, from an inability or unwillingness to connect deeply with yourself. It comes from a place of insecurity, where you believe your worth depends on other people's presence or validation. When you feel lonely, it means you haven't yet built a fulfilling relationship with yourself. The mind fills that void with doubt, anxiety, and longing. It craves distraction or companionship because it fears the silence and the confrontation with your true self. But this fear is exactly what keeps the cycle of loneliness alive. Avoiding solitude and seeking external comfort only deepens the sense of emptiness because you never give yourself a chance to heal and grow. To break free from loneliness, you must start by shifting your mindset about being alone. Instead of seeing it as a punishment or a void, reframe it as an opportunity. An invitation to discover who you really are without the influence of others. In solitude, you have the space to explore your passions, reflect on your goals, and develop mental resilience. This is where true self-awareness blossoms. When you spend time alone, you start to realize that your thoughts, feelings, and desires are valid and valuable. You learn to listen to your inner voice and trust your intuition. This connection with yourself is a powerful antidote to loneliness. Another important step is learning to find joy in your own company. This doesn't mean you need to be constantly entertained or distracted. It means cultivating a genuine sense of comfort and contentment when you're by yourself. It means treating yourself as you would treat a close friend, with kindness, patience, and respect. Engage in activities that nourish your soul, reading, writing, exercising, creating, or simply sitting quietly and observing your surroundings. When you do this regularly, being alone becomes a source of peace rather than fear. You create a sanctuary within yourself that no external circumstance can shake. It's also vital to understand that being alone is not the same as being isolated. Isolation is forced and often unhealthy, while choosing to be alone is an act of empowerment. Isolation happens when you're cut off from meaningful connections and support, often against your will. Being alone by choice is different because it comes from a place of self-awareness and control. You decide when and how you engage with the world, and you respect your need for solitude as part of your well-being. This distinction is key to transforming your experience of solitude into a source of strength. Loneliness can also be overcome by developing new perspectives on connection. When you don't depend on others to fill an inner void, your relationships become healthier and more fulfilling. You start to engage with people not out of neediness or desperation, but out of genuine interest and mutual respect. This shift elevates your social interactions and creates deeper bonds. You no longer fear being alone because you know your happiness and self-worth don't hinge on others. This freedom allows you to form connections based on authenticity, not dependency. Fear of loneliness is often tied to the fear of facing uncomfortable truths about yourself. In solitude, there's no escaping the mind's scrutiny or the emotional baggage you carry. But facing these truths is the gateway to healing and transformation. When you stop running from yourself and start embracing your whole being, including your flaws and shadows, you become stronger and more resilient. This process of self-acceptance diminishes loneliness because you're no longer divided or at war within yourself. You become whole, and that wholeness is the antidote to loneliness. The choice to embrace being alone also leads to greater independence. When you are comfortable alone, you rely less on others to validate your feelings or decisions. You trust your judgment and are willing to stand by yourself in difficult situations. This independence is a form of power that attracts respect and admiration from others. People are drawn to those who are self-sufficient and grounded because they radiate confidence and stability. By choosing solitude, you cultivate a magnetic energy that is rare and compelling. Loneliness can be a vicious cycle, but breaking it starts with reclaiming control over your mindset. Instead of allowing loneliness to consume you, choose to redefine your experience of being alone. Use solitude as a tool for self-discovery and growth. Realize that the silence you once feared is actually a fertile ground for your transformation. The choice to be alone is not about exclusion, but inclusion. Embracing yourself fully and creating a life that doesn't depend on others to feel complete. In essence, when you internalize that loneliness is a mindset and being alone is a choice, you unlock a profound freedom. You step out of the victim role and become the architect of your own emotional experience. You realize that your happiness and peace are your responsibility, not someone else's. This realization is both liberating and empowering. It sets you on a path of self-mastery where solitude becomes a source of strength rather than fear. So embrace being alone with courage and grace. Cultivate a mindset that sees loneliness as a passing emotion, not a permanent state. Fill your solitude with purpose, passion, and self-love. Remember, the most powerful relationships you will ever have start with the one you build with yourself. Choose to be alone, not lonely. Choose freedom over fear. And watch as your life transforms into a journey of unstoppable growth and unshakable confidence. True growth happens in your own company. It's a reality that many overlook because they're constantly seeking validation, inspiration, or motivation from external sources, friends, mentors, social media, or crowds. But the deepest, most lasting growth comes when you look inward and spend time alone with yourself. When you're in your own company, stripped of distractions and influences, you're free to confront your true self, your fears, dreams, strengths, and weaknesses. This space, often uncomfortable and raw, is where transformation takes root and where your character is truly forged. It's in these moments of solitude and self-reflection that you break free from external pressures and start to build an authentic life that aligns with your values and vision. Growth requires honesty, and honesty is difficult when you're constantly surrounded by others. When you're with people, you might hide behind masks, play roles, or seek approval. But when you're alone, there's no place to hide. You have to face yourself head on, which means acknowledging your flaws, mistakes, and the parts of you that need improvement. This confrontation is uncomfortable but necessary. It's the soil where seeds of change are planted. Without this self-awareness, growth is shallow and temporary, merely a reaction to external stimuli rather than a deep internal evolution. Being in your own company also allows you to set your own pace for growth. When you depend on others to push you forward or validate your progress, you give up control over your journey. External motivation can be fleeting and inconsistent, but when you cultivate growth within yourself, you become your own driver. You learn to recognize what you need when you need it and how to push yourself even when no one else is watching. This autonomy is empowering because it means you are not reliant on anyone else's schedule, opinion, or encouragement. You take full responsibility for your development. True growth also comes from reflection, and reflection requires solitude. In your own company, you can process your experiences, learn from your successes and failures, and gain clarity on your direction. This quiet time lets you connect the dots, see patterns, and make sense of your journey. Without reflection, you risk repeating the same mistakes or losing sight of your goals. It's during these solitary moments that insights emerge and breakthroughs happen. This kind of growth is sustainable because it's based on a deep understanding of yourself rather than surface-level changes. Another critical aspect of growth in your own company is building resilience. Life throws challenges at everyone, but how you respond determines your progress. When you're alone, you have to rely on your inner strength to navigate hardships. This builds mental toughness because you learn to face problems without immediately seeking help or distraction. You become comfortable with discomfort, which is where growth happens. Each time you overcome a struggle on your own, you reinforce your confidence and prove to yourself that you are capable. This resilience is a cornerstone of true personal development. Growth also demands creativity, and creativity thrives in solitude. When you're in your own company, free from noise and influence, your mind can wander and explore new ideas. You can experiment without fear of judgment and develop unique solutions. This creative freedom is essential for innovation and self-expression. Many of the world's greatest thinkers, artists, and leaders attribute their breakthroughs to time spent alone. They harness their solitude to tap into deeper parts of their mind and heart, unlocking potential that crowded environments could never reveal. Spending time alone also nurtures emotional intelligence, which is vital for growth. When you're with others, it's easy to react impulsively or be swept up in group emotions. But alone, you learn to observe your feelings without immediate reaction. This self-awareness allows you to understand your emotional triggers, manage your responses, and develop empathy for yourself and others. Emotional intelligence strengthens your relationships and decision-making, making your growth more holistic and grounded. True growth is inseparable from self-love and acceptance, both of which flourish in your own company. When you spend time alone, you have the chance to care for yourself deeply, physically, mentally, and spiritually. You learn to appreciate your worth without needing external validation. This self-love fuels motivation and perseverance because it comes from a place of respect and kindness, not self-criticism or pressure. Acceptance of yourself, including your imperfections, creates a foundation of peace that supports continuous growth rather than self-sabotage. Moreover, your own company offers a space to cultivate discipline, which is essential for growth. Without the distractions of social life or constant engagement, you can focus fully on your goals and habits. You develop routines that align with your priorities and push yourself to be consistent. This discipline turns potential into results because it creates the structure necessary for sustained effort. When you rely on yourself for motivation, discipline becomes a natural part of your growth process. The journey of growth in your own company is also about freedom. Freedom from comparison, freedom from the need to conform, and freedom to explore your unique path. When you depend on others' opinions or follow their lead, your growth becomes a mimicry of someone else's life. But alone, you have the liberty to define success on your own terms. You choose what to pursue, how to measure progress, and what kind of person you want to become. This freedom leads to authenticity, which is the ultimate form of growth because it aligns your inner world with your outer life. Sometimes people fear solitude because they think growth requires external input, feedback, mentorship, or social interaction. While these can be valuable, they are not the foundation of growth. External input is only useful when you have a strong inner base to filter and apply it effectively. Without time spent in your own company, external advice can lead to confusion or dependency. True growth happens when you've cultivated enough self-awareness and confidence to discern what serves you and what doesn't. Your own company is where you develop that inner compass. It's also important to recognize that growth in your own company doesn't mean isolation or loneliness. It means being comfortable and productive alone, while still engaging with others on your own terms. This balance creates a life where your growth is not at the mercy of social circumstances or relationships. You build a rich inner world that sustains you through ups and downs. This internal richness spills over into your interactions, making you more present, authentic, and inspiring to others. In conclusion, true growth is an inward journey that demands time, honesty, and courage spent in your own company. It's in solitude that you confront your true self, build resilience, cultivate creativity, and develop emotional intelligence. You learn to be your own motivator, your own critic, and your own supporter. This process creates a foundation of authenticity, discipline, and self-love that no external force can shake. When you embrace your own company, you unlock the full potential of your mind, heart, and spirit. You step into a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and freer than ever before. This is the power of growth that comes from within, a journey worth taking again and again. Mastering solitude makes you unbreakable. In a world filled with noise, distractions, and constant demands for attention, learning to be alone and truly comfortable with it is one of the greatest strengths you can develop. Solitude is often mistaken for loneliness or weakness, but those who understand its power know that it is the foundation of inner strength, clarity, and resilience. When you master solitude, you no longer rely on external validation, approval, or companionship to feel whole or confident. You become self-reliant, emotionally independent, and mentally tough. This independence is what makes you unbreakable because it means that no outside force can easily shake your sense of self or derail your progress. At its core, mastering solitude means developing a deep and honest relationship with yourself. It requires you to confront your thoughts, emotions, and fears without running away or seeking distraction. This is no small feat. Most people are conditioned to avoid being alone with their minds because it forces them to face uncomfortable truths about who they are and what they want. But those who embrace solitude find that it is in these quiet moments that they grow the most. Solitude allows you to understand your values, clarify your goals, and develop unwavering confidence in your own judgment. When you know yourself deeply, you become less vulnerable to the opinions and judgments of others. Mastery of solitude also builds mental toughness. Life will inevitably throw challenges, setbacks, and failures your way. Without a solid inner foundation, these obstacles can crush your spirit and leave you feeling helpless. But when you have mastered being alone, you develop the resilience to face adversity head-on. You learn to rely on your own strength and resourcefulness rather than expecting others to bail you out or cheer you on. This self-sufficiency is empowering because it means that no matter what happens, you have the internal tools to keep moving forward. You become like a fortress that cannot be easily breached because your strength comes from within, not from external circumstances. Another vital aspect of mastering solitude is emotional independence. Many people are emotionally dependent on others for their happiness and sense of security. They seek constant reassurance, affection, or companionship to fill a void inside. But this dependency creates vulnerability because it places your emotional well-being in someone else's hands. Mastering solitude means you cultivate the ability to generate your own happiness and peace. You become your own source of comfort and encouragement. This emotional autonomy is crucial for becoming unbreakable because it protects you from being overwhelmed by rejection, criticism, or loss. Solitude also sharpens your focus and productivity. When you're alone, free from distractions, you can fully concentrate on your goals and passions. This intense focus leads to mastery in whatever you choose to pursue. Many of the world's most successful and influential people credit their achievements to time spent alone, honing their skills and ideas without interruption. Mastering solitude allows you to harness your energy and direct it purposefully. This single-mindedness is a powerful weapon in a world full of distractions and superficial connections. Furthermore, mastering solitude enhances your creativity and problem-solving abilities. In silence, your mind has the freedom to wander, imagine, and innovate. You are not constrained by others' opinions or conventional thinking. This mental freedom allows you to explore new perspectives and solutions that might be impossible in a noisy, crowded environment. Solitude becomes a laboratory for experimentation and growth. The ideas you generate and the insights you gain during these solitary moments often become the foundation for breakthroughs in your personal and professional life. Mastering solitude also leads to deeper self-awareness and emotional intelligence. When you spend time alone, you become more attuned to your feelings and thought patterns. You learn to observe your reactions without judgment and understand the root causes of your emotions. This self-awareness allows you to manage your responses more effectively and cultivate empathy toward yourself and others. Emotional intelligence is a critical component of unbreakability because it enables you to navigate relationships, conflicts, and stress with grace and strength. One of the most profound benefits of mastering solitude is the freedom it brings. When you are comfortable alone, you are no longer bound by the need to conform to others' expectations or seek their approval. You can make decisions based on your own values and desires without fear of judgment or rejection. This freedom fosters authenticity, which is a cornerstone of inner strength. Living authentically means you are aligned with your true self, and this alignment creates a powerful sense of peace and confidence that cannot be shaken by external forces. It's important to note that mastering solitude does not mean rejecting connection or living in isolation. Rather, it means being able to stand strong and confident when you are alone, so that your relationships become choices rather than crutches. When you are unbreakable in your solitude, you engage with others from a place of strength and wholeness. Your relationships become healthier and more meaningful because they are based on mutual respect and genuine connection, not dependency or fear. The path to mastering solitude requires deliberate effort and courage. It means resisting the urge to distract yourself with constant noise, social media, or superficial interactions. It means setting aside time regularly to be alone with your thoughts and feelings. This can be uncomfortable at first, but over time it becomes a source of empowerment and renewal. The more you practice solitude, the more you strengthen your ability to face life's challenges without fear or doubt. Mastering solitude also involves cultivating self-compassion. When you are alone, you may encounter your inner critic or feelings of inadequacy. The key is to respond to yourself with kindness and patience.